Good morning, everybody. This is Joe Mansueto with Godlan. Really appreciate you joining us today. Today's product of the month offering is going to be the quality solution, the integrated quality solution within SyteLine. We'll be taken through an overview presentation of this solution. We will allow for you to ask questions. We'll address those questions. And what we'd like for you to do is at any point during the presentation, just type your question into the chat box and send that to us, and we will read those off. If it's appropriate and within context of what's being covered at the moment, we'll read it right off while we're going. Otherwise, we'll read questions off at the end and kind of do a little bit of Q&A at the end. So again, the quality solution in SyteLine. So whether it's incoming materials, your manufacturing processes, products heading out your door, you have quality steps. And QCS provides that framework to manage all of your quality needs right within SyteLine. With us today is Marlene White. Marlene has over 20 years of experience with the SyteLine suite of products, and she's going to take us through today's presentation. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Marlene.
All right, thank you. All right, well, we'll just get started. The quality control solution for SyteLine allows users to comply with sections of the ISO 9001 quality systems model. It consists of 4 modules, which may be licensed separately or any combination. The QCS supplier module allows SyteLine users to track quality information on purchased or incoming material. It includes tools to track and report on cost of quality, vendor performance, material review reports, and corrective action reports. The QCS InProcess module tracks quality information associated with SyteLine jobs and production schedules. The quality department defines a quality plan to track the job from its initial release through to its completion. The quality plan defines the related checkpoints needed to ensure that the process and product perform correctly. It is a companion to the job production plan or your job bill of material and routing. The QCS customer module allows SyteLine users to identify and track quality information related to product being shipped to customers, including certificates of conformance, track product returned from customers, and track customer complaints. Finally, the QCS Enterprise module tracks quality information that is not directly related to material. QCS Enterprise provides functionality to track quality activities, actions, and topics that are key to continuous improvement and track changes to processes, procedures, and documents to ensure complete review and action. We'll start with some detail on the supplier module and relate the different aspects to that, and then talk about the other material modules, and then finally finish up with Enterprise. So if we take a look at the process flow for purchasing for the supplier module, we will be starting with a PO receipt, determining if inspection is required for a particular receipt, going through the inspection process, perhaps doing some testing, recording test results, dispositioning the material either to inventory or to put on hold for further review, and then ultimately we have the ability to reject the material at the final point or send it on to inventory. So we're going to walk through these different processes, and then keep in mind when we get into the in-process and the customer, they're very similar series of steps associated with those modules as well. So as we said, the supplier module tracks quality information on purchased and incoming material. You may use this module for planned inspections of PO receipts and vendor RMA receipts, or unplanned inspections when non-conformances are discovered in inventory, or when material is moved, or when material is issued to production or used on a job. There are 2 methods of getting received parts into QCS. A receiver is created either automatically or manually, and it's essentially an order to the quality department to inspect and disposition material or to address a specific quality issue. All activity against a receipt is tracked by the receiver number. You may wish to use a mix of methods for creating receivers based on different situations that occur at your company. Automatic generation of a receiver occurs during the standard SyteLine purchase order receiving process. Based on the setup of QCS items, the system determines when a receipt requires QC processing. You may also choose to auto-accept receipts when you're not physically going to test a product, but you're only using the QC module for vendor performance reporting purposes. First article receivers that require just recording of defects and no disposition may also automatically be generated in addition to regular receivers for the rest of a batch. And then this is accomplished with various settings in the QC parameters. So if we're here in purchase order receiving, this is standard SyteLine 8 purchase order receipt form. I have a PO number here. I have my vendor. And this is the line of this particular product that we're going to be receiving. So if I go through a standard receiving transaction, the system will look and see that this is an item that is set up for QC inspection, and notice it's giving me the item number, as well as it has automatically changed the receiving location to a quarantine inspection location. And then you might have some messages that pop up, simply alerts that are coming from QC. Now, this is an optional display here that's going to come up showing the receiver information, and this is the receiver number that QCS is going to track this particular receipt against. So it's created a receiver number, it's indicating the vendor and the PO and the related information to it. You notice down here that there is an additional field called a QC lot. We'll talk about this a little bit further, but keep in mind that if you choose to do lot tracking or serial tracking through QC, you can do inspections against lots and serials without having to activate the lots and serials within SyteLine. So this is really a lot and serial that is contained only within QC for when you are doing the inspections and the dispositions against a particular receipt or, say, a job finish. But it allows you to bypass the constraints that SyteLine puts on with managing lots and serials. The manual method may also be used in place of purchase order receiving or as an option for moving parts into QC out of the purchasing process flow. So there is, we're looking here at what we call QC Create Supplier Receiver, and this essentially allows you to create the receiver on the fly. You find some material on the shelf that has an issue with it, and you want to send it off to the quality department to be able to be reviewed. Receivers in this case may optionally include a purchase order or a transfer order, or may only reference an item. So you do have that information if you want to track it after the receipt of the PO, if you can tie it back to that particular PO. Tags may be printed automatically if you wish, and that is evident throughout the quality area. So you're going to see, as we go through different forms, we're going to see indications of tags. So these tags are generated automatically from the information that is being presented on the screen. And then you can, if we would be using this, you can choose to move transactions, use a move transaction in SyteLine to put this into a quality location, move it out of its primary location into a quarantine location, or you can simply choose to leave this material where it is if you're just going to do some kind of inspection on the fly right there. Right. Let's see. So once we have receipts and receivers for quality, you have several methods available for identifying material awaiting inspection and disposition. There is a supplier ready for receiving inspection report that can be previewed or printed to see a list of available receivers, or you may query the supplier inspect disposition form to see all or a subset of pending receivers. So here's the receiver that we just transacted, the receiver number, our PO, the item, and this is where we're really starting the whole quality inspection process. There's a lot of information that's being tracked on this, the quantity that's received. Ultimately, when we accept or reject any, if we put any on hold, we're going to be able to see that. You can record notes here that become part of the inspection process. And then we're going to be moving into actually recording tests and dispositioning our receiver. Both test results and defects may be recorded against a receipt. If we go to that form, then test results may be recorded on an individual item basis or as one entry in a batch for the entire receipt. So the process we would go through, an inspector would indicate their ID. Again, if we were using a QC lot, we would have that information here. And then I simply decide if I want to do each test or I just want to create a batch. And when you create each test, it will create a testing record for every single item in your receipt based on the test numbers that have been set up. So you can see we have a series of things. We're testing length. We're testing the thickness. We're going to do something that's not a measurement, but more a cosmetic type test here. We're doing diameter. And then we might even check the packaging to make sure that it's conforming to our requirements. So each of these tests is going to be recorded for the particular pieces that are in this receipt. And as we would go through here and indicate some values, the system will automatically pass or fail each record of a receipt because it's looking at the measurements that are expected for that particular item. So you can indicate what the acceptable measurements are, and then the system will go through and evaluate against those measurements. Alternatively, if you were doing batch testing, you would be able to come in here and indicate just after you've done your measurements how many pass and how many fail in each of the different areas. A couple other points on this. With sample quantities may be identified and calculated through this Calc AQL button. This calculates the sample size when the functionality is set up in the QCS parameters. And this is accomplished through the establishment of QC sampling criteria and QC test plan sampling rates. These measures use a set number of completed receivers, which are compared with the number of rejected parts. Sampling rates may be determined to be normal, tight, or loose based on the activity that takes place for that particular part. As you go through this, the specific piece of equipment may also be indicated that you are using in the testing, and there is a complete gauge tracking section to this where you can indicate the tools that you're using, have recalibration dates, know when gauges are out of calibration or need to be out for inspection or are available for use, and that is all part of the modules. Then additionally, failure codes may be identified for each item and recorded with quantities for each type of failure. This information can then be used to analyze how many item receipts fail due to a particular reason. Again, because these are defined values, you can utilize them in reports, do analysis on them, and be able to have that information for management decisions. All right, so once we're finished with our testing, The testing material is dispositioned. Now, again, in here, if you have it set up, you could be recording hours. I don't have that turned on, but if you wanted to be able to capture time against the inspections, this is information only. It does not go into any kind of job costing. But we're going to come in here and, let's say, we'll accept 4 of the 5 pieces that we had, and you're going to be able to set up reason codes and disposition codes based on the information that you want to be tracking. Again, I could print tags for the good units and or the unaccepted units. So we'll have one item fail here, and okay, and we're going to hold this and actually have it create a material review record to be able to follow up on this. So when you hit process, it's going to now prompt us to move the 4 accepted units into inventory. So we're going to do a standard SyteLine inventory move transaction, and that puts our 4 good pieces into inventory. And then it has created a material review record for this quantity on hold of 1. So if I would go to the linked MRR, I can now see here's my item, here's the inspector that was looking at it, here's the purchasing information tied to it. And at this point, we're going to be working further with this non-conforming material. Now, so with the MRR process, we typically create the record, then members of a material review board would meet to address the MRR, disposition it, or assign someone to investigate and schedule a follow-up meeting for the final disposition. We could also create a corrective action report to ensure that the cause of the incident is corrected to prevent recurrence. But in here, we're going to be able to describe the problem with the material, as well as if we know or if we can determine what is the cause of the defect and what we're going to do about it. So again, you can set up cause codes that can then be filtered on and queried on to have information relative to how many times we've had MRRs due to a particular cause, related to a particular item, and related to a particular vendor. All good information to have as you go forward. Again, if we want to investigate this further and come up with corrective action plans, as well as establishing costs that is associated with this. Now again, this is not going into the general ledger. This is not going into any job costing. This is informational only, but you can start tracking things like the costs to you to be able to analyze the issues, whether that might be engineering time or, different types of inspections, or if you have to do further testing on this to be able to evaluate what the problems are. And as you go through this, we're doing this on the purchasing side, but again, keep in mind that this is the exact same process that we would be utilizing for job and production schedule non-conformances. So, this will be very relevant to how you're going to address any deficiencies that are in manufacturing or with materials that are being utilized in the manufacturing process. All right, so with our inspection here and our disposition of the MRR, if we decide that a return to vendor is going to be the disposition of the material, a vendor RMA may be generated automatically from this MRR. So we can come in here once we're finished with it, disposition the MRR, and in this case, we're going to say we're rejecting it, and it failed inspection, and we're returning it to the vendor. Now, this is going to be, this can be tied into a number of different areas of SyteLine. First of all, this can be tied into the event system. We're going to see an alert message pops up that we can send an email directly to the vendor. And then vendor RMAs will be created that could then send some or all the material back to the supplier. The supplier may tell us to just scrap the material. If we do send it back and we want material returned, we are going to be able to receive some of the material back from the vendor or receive a credit from the supplier, or we may send it on to maybe a third party for rework or repair. So here we'll create a vendor RMA. It's created the RMA, and we want to send an email to our vendor for this. So now we've got a vendor RMA linked to this, and we've essentially dealt with the process internally. So now, at this point, we're going to be able to track the material going back. And again, we can scrap it, we can return it, we can receive material back, or we can also generate paperwork. So if we're sending material back to the vendor, there is a whole paperwork packet, the packing slip, the shipping documentation to go back to our vendor. You're also going to be able to track quantities that have been returned, the quantity that we received back, and all the dates related to those particular transactions. All right, the manufacturing piece of this is what is called InProcess Module, and it follows a similar flow to that of the Supplier Module. After creating and releasing a job for a QC in-process item, the system creates one or more receivers to track the IP quality plan through QCS. Receivers are tied to operations. You can manually create in-process receivers as an option for moving materials into quality, also outside of the standard job process flow. So if we would go into the in-process job inspect and disposition, I slide this over a little bit, and you can see some receivers that are out here. You can see they're tied to a job and the operation for that job. So here we've got a particular material that is going to be inspected after operations 10, 20, and 30. And again, you can have as many or as few checkpoints in the inspection process as you need. You have several methods, again, available for identifying work that is awaiting the inspection. There is a QC in-process action report that can be previewed or printed to see a list of available receivers, or you can simply query this form, the IP job or production schedule inspect disposition form, to see all or a subset of pending receivers. So if I wanted to see just the receivers for this particular job, I would simply come in here and query this particular form. There are, when we get to the point of recording test results, there are actually 5 different levels of detail of data that can be tracked on a quality plan in QCS. And if I pop back here, the first level is a status only, which is used as a checkpoint, which may verify something like a machine setup, maybe check job documentation is correct, or check completion of some automated tests that maybe are occurring off of a machine tool. And then this consists of simply indicating in this checkbox that the receiver is complete. So we're not really going in, we're not recording test defects, we're not dispositioning, we're just saying, yes, we've reviewed the appropriate information and we're finished with this receiver. The next point could be to status, indicate the status here, as well as disposition the receiver, indicating the quantity that was accepted or rejected. We may not be doing testing, but we're just looking at the materials and indicating that we're moving some along or we're putting some on hold. The third point is, we could record individual or batch test results along with the disposition, similar to the way we did it with purchasing, and then again including how many were tested and how many passed and failed in each step. And then in addition to the test results, we can also record defects again, allowing us to analyze how many units failed due to the specific defect codes appropriate for that particular item. The non-conforming material is managed with the same processes as described for the supplier module. If a rework job is required for addressing a non-conformity, the job number may be indicated on the MRR as a reference, but the system does not automatically create rework jobs. The user would create a new job in SyteLine with the type of rework, or you can simply create a job split on your existing job and then add additional operation steps to record the rework required to correct the nonconformity. Okay, the customer module allows SyteLine users to track quality information related to product being shipped to customers, product returned from customers, and then track customer complaints. Customer receivers for shipping are created manually during the order shipping process. Prompts will alert the user to create a receiver and a certificate of conformance if that's required. Receivers for returns may automatically be created when a SyteLine RMA return transaction is posted. The material may optionally be put on hold with an MRR, and then RMA receivers may also be manually created when material is received from a customer. There is a QC customer available to ship report that identifies orders awaiting shipment that need QC shipping receivers. You may also query the QC customer or RMA inspect disposition form, which again is like the it's just the same form as the inspect for InProcess or supplier. When materials dispositioned as accepted, a certificate of conformance may be created and linked to a receiver. A COC is printed to allow the item to ship. The COC references a receiver number for the material, which is linked to inspection results and a specific customer order. And then multiple COCs can be created per receiver number. Second part of the customer module is the complaint area. As part of the ISO 9000-2000 compliance, companies are required to capture, respond to, and analyze customer issues. This includes complaints, feedback, and other customer-initiated communications. The customer complaint reporting system addresses this particular need. If we're looking here, again, here's a customer complaint record. Here's my customer. You might have different product lines defined that you're dealing with, and then different codes as to the nature of the complaint or the issue. Now, again, these don't all have to be complaints. They could be feedback. They could be inquiries. We can need service on a particular product, or it could just be customers, offering suggestions on new product or improvements to products. But all the description of the issue is explained here. We might be able to determine here what the root cause is. Again, you can use codes to be able to query in various reports or analyze various causes against particular products. And then you can define action steps and assign the processes to different individuals within the organization to resolve the customer's problem. If it takes further investigation, we may want to have a material review record be assigned, particularly if this is related to a product. You might want to formalize the actions a little bit more than what we're doing right here and have a formal corrective action process. Or we may simply have to issue an RMA to the customer and tell them to send their product back, and then we will go through the entire RMA process for that. But the objective of this is to provide you a tool to improve customer relations and allow your customer service group to quickly respond and react to customer issues. All right, so the last part of the quality modules is the enterprise. module. And the Enterprise module allows your SyteLine users to track quality information that is not directly associated with material. QCS Enterprise provides functionality to track quality activities, actions, and topics that are key to continuous improvement, and track changes to processes, procedures, and documents to ensure complete review and action. Examples of topics that may be managed through QCS might include accident investigation, audit findings, improvements, safety, training, and process changes. So a topic receiver is created manually, and then this form is used to assign users to work on the definition and resolution of an issue, relate other topics to this main topic, and add documentation and discussion notes if we need to further explain this or expand on it. If the topic is related to an item or a department or a work center, that information may be noted here as well. A topic review report is used to define actions to resolve the topic, similar to a material review report. So in this case, again, what the cause of it is, what the issue is, what the cause of it is, what we're going to do to work on this. If you want to associate cost, and again, these are your internal costs related to this, all that information can be documented and then approved as we go through the process. A change request initiates a formal process for reviewing and implementing a process change. Again, similar to topics, the change requests may be assigned to users to work on the definition and resolution, add documentation, notes, and associate corrective actions and change management reports. If change is related to a particular item, department, or work center, that information can be included as well. So if we look at a change request here, so we have an audit process, ISO audit found issues with such and such. That information can be documented. There's various statuses, so we have it under review. And again, you can define what these different statuses are, but we're going to be able to, again, associate costs with this, your internal costs for working with this. You can link in any documentation that you need to be able to support the change or to the documentation that is going to have to be altered to reflect the change. And then, again, if any tools or machines are impacted, we'll be able to track that information. Materials as well, so if we're going to be changing out something having to do with the materials, that information is all recorded. And then the change management request report is used to detail the steps involved in the process change, and then we'll assign the responsibility as well. The third part of the enterprise is the process management, and this functionality is designed to provide a consistent methodology and reporting structure for any process that is repeated within the organization. You may use it to document quality in any process, but it can also be used for those that are not typically associated with quality activities. And then processes are made up of sequential phases with activities assigned to each phase. And here's, again, some examples of processes that you might want to document throughout this. So some general information as we look at all these different modules, information that's related to all the different materials modules. As I mentioned briefly before, you may track serial numbers and lots within QC only, and that allows you to record test results and dispositions against a specific serial number or lot, but without the need to utilize all the tracking requirements within SyteLine for that particular item. Tags may be created for any material movement in all the areas that we've seen of QC. Electronic signatures may be activated for QC. That's a new feature that was added in SyteLine 803 in some other areas of SyteLine, and it's also available over here in quality, which would require a username and password sign-off for recording test results and or dispositioning receivers. So when the before you could save the test results, the user would have to indicate their user ID and password. And the same way with dispositioning the receivers, pop-up box comes up requiring a user to record their validation information. SyteLine's event system may be tied into any aspect of the QC modules to provide emails and alerts of important information. In the vendor RMA dispositioning process, that email that popped up, that is utilizing SyteLine's events. That is standard, but any additional processes within QC could be set up with events, sending messages or requesting information. The solution is tightly integrated with SyteLine's master files and transactional events. So as you saw, we went into purchasing, and it was just initiated right out of a basic purchasing transaction. Same way with the order shipping or with jobs. It's tied into all those different areas of SyteLine. It utilizes common features such as notes, linked documents, either embedded with the new document functionality in SyteLine 8, or if you're utilizing DocTrack, that is enabled for the QC modules as well. And then, of course, the standard interface that your users are used to seeing with SyteLine. It is built on the same Mongoose toolset as the rest of SyteLine, so it provides you the same personalization capabilities as the rest of SyteLine. So if there's additional fields that you want to enable or include, or anything that you want to just change the layout of the forms, you're able to do that. And then finally, QCS contains dozens of reports in Microsoft Reporting Services, and it may also be utilized with the Workbench suite for data views and critical numbers. And if I just bring up the menu, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the reports, but I do want you to see the extensive list of reports, because there really is a lot of standard reports that are tied into this module. So corrective actions, are pervasive across all the different modules. But then you have your different types of customer reports. Here's the actual printing of the certificate of conformance. You've got things tied to, we mentioned there's an available to ship report, which shows you all the materials that are awaiting dispositioning, and then some tied to the complaints, your inspections of outgoing product to your customer, the RMA related reports, information on gauges. So again, your whole gauge management area will allow you to generate reports on that. In process, we've got things like cost of quality, cost of scrap, the job paperwork that is going to be associated and going out onto the shop floor, telling the folks out on the floor what they're needing to pass through quality. You're defining a quality plan, so that is the actual tests that need to take place and the checkpoints where that information is taking place. And then we're also measuring yield, so you'll be able to see in the in-process area how many units we're putting through production, and then how many did we have to divert through non-conformances in quality. And then your whole supplier area, including things like vendor performance and parts per million, and of course your vendor RMAs. And then you do have the forms that are related to the enterprise area as well. But again, when you are within a quality form, you also have, if you have the Workbench suite licensed, you have the data views automatically tied to every single form that is in here as well. So lots of capabilities for managing the reporting aspects of it, and and then ultimately your QC homepage that will also give you all the different views across the navigator, similar to the home pages that you have in the other application areas of SyteLine.
Excellent. What I'm going to suggest at this point, because we are at the coming up to the top of the hour, that what I'd like to provide you with are an email address, which you can forward the questions. Those will come into a couple of us. Those will be distributed and answered right back directly to you. That email address is info@Godlan, info@Godlan.com. Please send your questions there. The other option would be, if you happen to be visiting our site, which is, of course, www.godlan.com, there's a chat feature up in the corner. Just wave over that chat, and that'll pop up a box, and you can chat with us at any time. So you can do this either of those ways, and we'd invite you to please do that. Outside of that, any questions that have perhaps come in here at the end, or that come in, once we hang up here, we'll address those. But please go ahead and send your questions on to us.